Hey guys, Yasa here with freebalanceclasses.com. We're here for another coffee talk, and today we're going to be talking about the common injuries and how to modify with those injuries while you're practicing the art of belly dancing. So that's one of the questions that actually, in fact, get a lot on the freebalanceclasses.com. A lot of people have so many different types of injuries. You have knee injuries, you have, elbow injuries, you have shoulder injuries, obviously are the common ones. Women, when they work a lot their abs, they tend to pull the lower ab muscles. There's different types of injuries, and you're gonna get them one way or another, okay? If you are an active person, you will eventually get injured. As part of life, get over it, okay? So don't say, I'm not going to work out, or I'm not going to be active, or I'm not going doing so-and-so activity because I get injured once, and I'm just not going to do that all over again. It's a price we pay for having a great life and for having a great time being active and feeling, our bodies move, which is what they are meant to do. So enjoy that and expect the injuries to happen. So don't stop doing the things that you love to do, like dancing, just because eventually you're gonna get injured. There's always the right way to do different moves so you don't get injured. And of course, I try to do my best to explain those things to you, and I warn you of some of those injuries that can happen if you do things the wrong way on our website when I teach you different moves on freebalanceclasses.com. If you're doing different workouts, make sure you always have an instructor or a trainer that is going to tell you what is the right form or the modified form to do if you have certain injuries, or also if you are a beginner and you have not done this move, or you've never done it ever, so you need to modify and start in a different way. So make sure you have somebody who is always going to give you that easier version to start with until you kind of feel comfortable doing the harder versions. So that's the first advice. Now the second advice is, while you are injured, do not stop moving. It's not, being injured is not a reason to stop moving. It's just a reason to modify. Okay, look at it that way. Now, how to modify some of the common moves in belly dancing while you are injured. Now, the most common injuries that I personally encounter in my workshops, classes, or that I get questions about the most in my website, freebalanceclasses.com, is shoulder. I think that's a really common one. And I think we hear a lot more about this in belly dancing when we do things like veil dancing, or like fan veil dancing, or in some cases even Saidi cane dance. It's not common to hear about Saidi because Saidi, you tend to kind of like support your arms a little bit by bringing, your elbow in, so you're kind of isolating. So a lot of the movements really happen from the elbow down, so there's a lot of forearm work, okay? But there are other movements like in veil where you kind of lifting the shoulder up a little bit, and so there's a lot of shoulder movement you're gonna have to lift up. So as I said, veil, fan veil, wings, Isis wings, also you're gonna have to lift your arms all the way up. So if you have any shoulder injury, it's really, really hard. It's not hard necessarily to kind of do like a quick performance of 3-5 minutes tops, but it is hard to do when you're taking a class and the entire hour is focused on that one prop, and you have to kind of do, veil or Saidi sword or whatever it is, fan veil, over and over, and you're like constantly like this, holding tight and moving that shoulder, so many times. So eventually it's really gonna hurt if you have any injury. So let's talk about that. Shoulder injury first, and then we'll move on to other injuries. Shoulder injury, when it comes to veil dancing, for example, the hardest move is lifting up. I personally do have a shoulder injury on my left shoulder right here. Like, I can't do anything with heavy weights this way, okay? So if I lift for a long time like this, it really hurts. If I do a lot of veil dancing and instructing, after an hour, I really start to feel my shoulder. But luckily in belly dance, we can always shake those arms up a little bit and then move on again. So I can always give it a little break. So that's one advice, is take a break whenever you need it, okay? Drop those arms, shake them up a little bit, give yourself a good stretch. Kind of halfway through your practice, give yourself a stretch. Don't think about stretching as something you only do in the beginning or at the end of your practice of whatever it is that you're doing. Either it's a workout or your belly dance veil work. Always stop and stretch. Whenever something feels tight, stretch it immediately. So that's the first advice. Second thing is take a break. Don't go for a long time. Like if the class is like about an hour, do about the first half hour, for example, and then sit in the class and watch the rest. Just watching is going to help you learn, and then eventually you'll do it when you're ready, okay? When you're rested and you're ready, you can do it. So taking a break is very, very important because I do have a shoulder injury. I relate. Trust me. Taking a break is really important. If I take like a 5-minute break and then I go back to Vail for another hour, I could be okay. And then I can take maybe another break for like 5-10 minutes and then I go back for another half hour, I'm totally okay. But to kind of keep going constantly nonstop is not really healthy, okay? So the other advice also is change your range of motion, okay? The hardest thing when you have shoulder injuries is going all the way to the top, you know, things like when you do, you know, like extremely extended arms like this. This is really hard. Bringing them a little closer is hard. Even harder, which is what I taught you to do, you guys, in other belly dance videos, because you have to do it in Vail, is pushing your arms back. So when you push your arms back like this, and then extend it. So lifting the arms, extending them completely straight, and then pushing back, it's like, you know, it's a lot when you have to practice for an entire hour in a class, okay? So what you do with that is you modify. You don't have to go all the way back, but you need to know the consequences of that. There's a reason why I make you guys go all the way back. It's because the Vail is not going to touch your body, and so it's not going to like stick to your body and fall, and then you have to kind of try to get it off, okay? So expect that to happen. So if it happens, you'll be like, yeah, you know, it's just the way it is for me. I've got a shoulder injury. You know, the Vail is going to kind of fall sometimes on me, and I'm going to have to get it off, you know? So have fun and just kind of laugh at the fact that you have limitations. Don't take those things personally. Just because you have a limitation doesn't mean, you know, you're done. You can't do this anymore. No, you can do it with limitations, and that is just fine. So that's one thing, you know, like don't push all the way back because it's really hard for the shoulders. And then also extending all the way up is really hard. So you can do your Vail work with your arms down a little bit like this. So you can move one arm like this, and then you can bring it up and you kind of hold it like right about here instead of extending all the way, because that really puts a lot of pressure on the shoulder. So play with it, you know. Your range of motion will change halfway instead of all the way. Straight next to your face instead of pushed back. As I said, there will be consequences to that, and as long as you're aware of them, that's fine. Okay, so that's how you modify for the shoulders. The other thing too is like when we do movements where you have to use the shoulder to generate the big fast motion. You know, like when we do things with the Vail, we like really throw it forward or back really fast. You would need to really think hard. By the way, you got to think harder in this one to really generate that move from your forearm, because you can. It's not impossible, but it's hard. So what you want to do is stabilize everything from the shoulder down to the elbow, and then think about your arm as really kind of attached to your body, and generate the move with just the forearm. You know, this kind of motion, okay? I'm exaggerating doing this, but don't do that. Keep your shoulder down. So really keep everything in, and then generate the movement from the elbow to the hand. That's where you will generate your movement. So if you have a Vail held right here, you can kind of do this really fast. You're gonna really gotta work the hand and the forearms to really generate that movement really fast, where you throw the Vail in the back and then forward, back, forward. So the speed in the hands and the forearms is going to help you with that, because anytime you're going to be moving the shoulders, it's gonna hurt if you have any rotator cuff injury type. So that's one advice to you as far as the rotator cuff. Now let's move on to maybe other type of injuries that are very common, and I think the next common one that I hear about the most is really the knees. You know, I mean, for many reasons. Some people were overweight at one point and of course lost a lot of weight, but the damage was there because, you know, they've been putting all this weight on those knees for a long time. Also the fact that we don't walk as much as we used to, the fact that our knees are bent in a certain weird way for an entire day while we're sitting at a desk, you know, is something that's new to the human body. So there's a lot of things that we do today in our lives that not necessarily the way we should be living, but it's the way it is, you know. I mean, you can change them. There's ways to change them. Find that. You know, you can have a standing desk. You can, you know, walk as you're making your phone calls instead of sitting as you make your phone calls. I mean, there's so many other ways you can change those habits that are really bad habits. But if you're somebody who's been doing the wrong thing for the longest time, chances are you have caused enough damage, and now it's about the time to fix it or work around it to do something that brings you some happiness, like dancing. So in belly dancing, specifically, Um, where you would need to use your knees the most will be things like, obviously, the hip drops, the hip kicks. I mean, a lot of things, by the way, in belly dance and use the knees, and that's kind of makes it really great in a way, because people that have knee injuries could actually straighten their knee muscles and get better and feel better. But at the same time, it does make it harder because you have to use your knees, and this is the one joint that hurts those people the most. So look at it as a positive thing when it hurts, and just say to yourself, first of all, that, you know what, I am going to get better. You know, the fact that I'm feeling my knees as I'm doing this exercise does mean that I'm working the muscles around it, and it's going to get better. So stay positive when it comes to that. Certain things will hurt before they get better. And the second thing is, try to do certain moves differently. If it really hurts, you know, get that pinch pain where you're just like, oh God, I can't tolerate this, it's so painful, then it's time to modify. So for certain things, like, for example, hip lifts and drops, where you kind of find yourself, you know, kind of bending the knee and then straightening the knee a lot, which is, you know, one of the basic moves in belly dancing. So if that itself, as simple as it is, really hurts your knees, you need to focus on lifting and dropping the hips without using your knees, which is harder, but look at the positive side. It actually works your side abs even more, because you would have to engage your hip muscles more. So instead of bending and straightening the knees, you just kind of think about lifting the heel. Let me back up a little bit here so you guys can see me. You lift the heel, and that is going to help lift your hip, but the knee stays straight, so there is no bending at the knee level. You keep the knee locks, you lift the hip, and then you drop, 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 drop. So you do the same thing on both sides. You can lift, locking the knee by lifting the hip, dropping by dropping the heel. Lift, lifting the hip, lifting the heel, and drop the heel, drop the hip. Does it produce the right visual effects and the right feel? No, it's a different type of hip lift and drop. It's more like a piston drop in a way, because you're using your heels to lift the hip and drop the hip. You're not actually using the knees. So it's not going to be a smoother move, but it's going to work as far as keeping your knee locks. So like if you have to wear a brace or anything like that, and then you find yourself still wanting to belly dance, you can still do it, because all you have to count on is locking that knee, which is already locked because of your brace, and then just kind of lift your heel and drop it, okay? So it's not going to produce the right effect, but it's going to work, and it's going to help you have a great time, you know, in your dance class, okay? So that's one thing you can do if the motion of bending and the knee and straightening kind of hurts a lot, okay? The other thing is in the hip kicks, you know, when we do the hip kicks, is also the same thing, is you kind of have to generate that move a lot of times by bending the knee, you know, and straightening it. So we do a lot of this. If that motion, as small as it is, does cause you pain, then the way to modify is, again, same thing. We're going to engage more the hip muscles, okay? And then basically what we're going to do is we're going to keep the feet flat, okay? And we're going to keep the knees locked, and then we're just going to slide the hip side to side. Is it going to produce the right effect? No, okay? But if you're in your class and everybody's doing hip kicks like this, you're going to go like this, 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 and just saying to your instructor, I'm modifying because I have a knee injury. So be open about your knee injuries. Ask your instructor what you can do to modify. And if they don't know, these are some of the examples you can do. So hip kicks and hip drops are going to be your biggest problem. Shimmies are also going to be a problem, because you do count on your knees to do something like an Egyptian shimmy or even a Turkish shimmy. In fact, it's even harder with a Turkish shimmy. With an Egyptian shimmy, you still have to kind of bend front and back in order to do the basic shimmy. So you have to kind of do this motion, front, back, front, back, front, back, front, back, front, back, and a motion. It's a small motion in itself that it should not cause a lot of pain, but if it does, then you're really going to need to start learning how to do a tension shimmy. That's going to force you to do one of the hardest shimmies out there, which is the tension shimmy. Everybody hates the tension shimmy because it's so hard to do. So go to my website, which is freebodydanceclasses.com, and just in the search box on top right, type tension shimmy to see my video where I taught you how to do it. But it really does not use your knees at all, and it kind of forces you to lock your knees down more, okay? So those are just some ideas of the most common injuries for your rotator cuff when you're doing your veil dancing, and for your knees when you're doing things like hip kicks and drops, and also for your shimmies. So hopefully we're just gonna start with this talk as far as injuries. Please don't make it a limitation. These are some just basic ideas, but I will share some more specific ideas to specific moves as we progress on our website in future videos on freebellydanceclasses.com. I'll see you there. Take care. Have fun dancing. Don't let your injuries stop you. And I'll see you there. Bye.